Let me think. I can't really do it to order like that. I will say this, a lot of that odd note grouping stuff seems to make more sense when you're playing fast. I guess the important thing is to think in terms of target notes. You've got a starting point and an ending point, and then your knowledge of the scale will dictate how many stops there are en route. It's one of the few things where I think having a metronome is actually good for you. Generally, I don't like that. I'd rather be playing along with a record. But for this stuff, it will tell you whether you're naturally playing the group of 5 slightly too fast when you're coming from a triplet feel or something like that. So if you teach yourself what those groupings sound like, then you won't have to think too hard. They will just pop out.
When you're doing these odd combinations, are you counting in your head? Like when you're doing 16th notes, you're doing 1 EN or whatever. Are you doing like 1 or 5, or what are you doing?
Nothing in particular. I'm certainly not counting. When you get up to 7, you're screwed instantly because 7 has too many syllables. It's an unmusical way to count. I quite like, if you do want to vocalize it, you either take a word that you know really well, hippopotamus, 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 there's your group of 5. Or the Indian thing, conical. I can't do it well, but they have this awesome system for kind of breaking stuff down. So you've got takada, 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 takadimi, takadimi, dadagenitu, 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 da, and different kind of words for different groupings. I actually have a story about India, which you will like. India is one of the most humbling places for any musician to go and play. They've been honing that classical music thing for millennia. Anyhow, I went to India and had to play with Rent-A-Band, and they'd learned some of the songs from my album. And there's one in particular called Erotic Cakes, and wherever I go, whenever I'm playing with this crack team of the local session mafia or the head of the jazz department in some school or whatever, Erotic Cakes is the song that always becomes a train wreck. And it's going... And that bit at the end. Everyone gets that wrong. Of course, in India, we had one rehearsal and like, twice the speed of the record. The guys were absolutely fine with it. And I stopped and said, "You guys have done your homework, haven't you?" And they said, "Well, we have to tell you. In our musical culture, that's kind of a cliche. You think it's really clever. You've done 3 groups of 5 in a row and then landed somewhere. We do that when we're 4 years old." It's called a T-high. This thing where you have the same grouping, you do it 3 times. So you might have daddy genodum, daddy genodum, daddy genodum, da, and then you land. The start of the 4th repetition falls on beat 1. So that's part of what those guys train themselves to be aware of. And you don't need an instrument to do it. It's just kind of brainwashing yourself with where the rhythmic intersections happen. So short answer, listen to Indian music and cry.
What is your personal favorite genre to play that personally expresses you?
Well, it's a shame that the word fusion has been corrupted a little bit. Fusion doesn't quite mean what it used to. I think the idea of that is basically you're free to do whatever you like and combine whatever influences you like. Like when Mahavishnu Orchestra were doing their fusion thing, the word was just a license for them to do exactly as they pleased. So in that sense, I guess fusion is a very liberating form of music. On the other hand, it's a selfish kind of music and a lot of people don't enjoy it. And that's not because of any deficiency on their part, they're looking for something else. So I think it's just as fun, you know, to do the 100,000 people thing and play a pop song that everyone knows and just play 3 chords, but try and play them really well and kind of feel that energy coming back at you. I like both. It's all about a balanced diet, isn't it? The one thing I could never do is just pick one style and say, this is obviously the style for me, I'll stop doing everything else.
Could you share some thoughts about technique for developing fast playing? I mean, you hear everything from, oh, you really need to focus on being precise and, you know, not playing any wrong notes. And then you hear Sean Lane say, well, you just need to play fast and gradually clean it up.
Most stuff, you can just sit in a room for long enough and you'll figure out how to do it. There was something about the way Sean was playing where you could sit in a room for years and years and years and try to do it and it would never quite happen. Because that's just music that made sense in Sean's unique mind. But the one thing that's really significant here, I think, is music is a language. So if you compare it to the language you know better, so English, did you ever say to yourself, I really need to teach myself to talk faster? We never thought that. All we've ever tried to do is communicate. We've tried to speak well. We've tried to make sure every time we open our mouths we're actually conveying a thought to the listener. And if you do that for years and years and years, one day when you get really excited you find that you can actually speak at twice the tempo because you've practiced speaking perfectly rather than striving to become faster. And I think in instrument terms, if you want to practice one basic thing, you want to have one basic principle, practice playing every note perfectly. And if you do that for years, then the speed thing will just happen. If you try and think bigger picture than that, speed is just what happens when you want to communicate something and you get excited. But if you make sure the technique is perfect and every note that comes out of your mouth sounds good, and also try to teach yourself to find it easy. That's the other thing that's really important. I see a lot of the shredder people, and I watch them when they're about to play something that they think is difficult. They'll tense up and they'll forget to breathe, and you can see tendons popping out of their arms, sweat flying off them, and they're telling themselves they can't do it, and then the body language reflects that, and you become this kind of awkward, stilted being. Whereas if you tell yourself, like, I can do this, I'll just chill out, I'll find a tempo where it's okay, and I'll find the laziest, most natural way to do this. If you're alternate picking, for instance, everyone has some version of that movement that comes naturally to them. So you have to try and get that movement onto the string and then can realign everything else in your body so that the picking motion that feels easiest to you translates onto the instrument. So stuff like that can be really helpful. And then stripping away all the movement that's not actually contributing to the note. So yeah, that kind of thing. On which note I gather we have to stop. It's been emotional, it's been a tease. Thank you for coming. I hope so.